Okay, today we're going to go ahead and talk about multiplying complex numbers and then finding solutions to problem sets. So that means we're going to have x equals stuff. So remember how we said I squared was equal to -1? Keep that in our minds. So we're going to go ahead and multiply these like I was multiplying my polynomials a couple weeks ago. So I have 3 times 8, which gives me 24. I times I gives me I squared, just like I did x squared. However, I squared is equal to -1, which means that I can replace that I squared for a -1. Now my 24 and my I are being multiplied, so my 24 and my -1 are going to be multiplied. So that gives me -24 as my final answer. Okay, I have 12 times 7, which gives me 84. I times I, which gives me I squared. I squared is equal to -1, so I replace it with the -1. And then I have 84 times -1, which is -84. Now, these next two are a little bit more intense. As you notice, they have the FOIL stuff. So remember, FOIL was first, outside, inside, and last. So I'm going to have my first times my first. So 6 times 4, which is 24. Then I'm going to do my outside, which is 6 times -3i, which would be -18i. Inside is -5i times 4, which is -20i. And then my last, which is -5i times -3i, which will give me positive 15i squared. So for right now I have 24, -18i minus 20i turns into -38i plus 15 times -1. Do you agree with me that this last piece will be minus 15? Because 15 times -15. 15 times -1 is -15. Well, then I have 24 minus 15, which gives me 9. And then that 9 minus 38i. Which is my final answer. Now that one was a bit intense, but I promise we can do it just the same on this one. So I'm going to take my first, which is my 4 times my 4, get 16. Outside, 4 times 3, which is 12i. Times my inside, which is minus 36i. And my outside, which is -27i squared. So we're going to add these two in the middle. So I get 16 minus 24i minus 27i squared. But we know that I squared is equal to -1. Which means now that I have 16 plus 27, because -27 times -1 will turn positive, minus 24, So 16 plus 27 gives me 43 minus 24i. So the only difference between today's stuff and when you did polynomials is, one, you have to change your square term into a -1, but in other words, there's really no difference because you can treat your I as like an x. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to find some complex solutions. So this is where you're going to want your calculator. So in this goal, I want to get x by itself. So I'm going to first move over 48. So I have 3x squared is equal to -48 because 0 minus 48 is -48. My computer decided to move on me, so it's a little jumpy. It's hard to write. Next, I'm going to divide both sides by 3. So I get x squared is equal to -16, I believe. Yep. Now, to undo something squared, we do the square root. Remember when we talked about square roots and how we could divide them out? Okay. I wanted to see if I can move those bottom two down, but I can't. They're all connected together. So then x is equal to plus or minus 4i. Because remember, when you take the square root of something, you could technically have the negative version of it. So the square root of 16 is 4. Square root of I, negative sign is I, and then you can have positive or negative. So let's try number 14. So first, I'm going to add over this 150. So I have negative 5x squared equals 150. Divide both sides by -5. I get x squared is equal to -30. Square root both sides. X is going to be equal to plus or minus I root 30. Now, the reason I don't break down that root of 30 is I ask myself, what can it break into? Well, I have 2 and 15. And then 15 is 3 and 5. And nothing comes out. So it's just going to end up staying root of 30. So in most cases, you're going to want to try and break it down. But in this case, it doesn't break down. So that's why it stays I root 30. All right, number 15, we're going to subtract 2. So I have 8x squared equals -2. Divide by 8. Yeah, x squared is equal to negative 2 over 8 will reduce down to, here, I don't have enough room. X squared is equal to 2 over 8 will reduce down to 1 over 4 because I can divide both stuff by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Take the square root of both. The square root of 1 is 1. The square root of 4 is 2. And then the square root of that negative sign is I. So in this case, you can have fractions. Bum, bum, bum. All right, let's see this last one. So minus 54. So I have 9x squared equals -54. Divide both sides by 9. X squared is equal to 6. Negative 6. I forgot my negative sign. Let me scoot that over. Take the square root of both sides. Now we've seen the square root of 6 plenty of times, so we should know that that is not going to break down anymore. So it's just x is equal to plus or minus I square root of 6. And that's all I have. I will see you tomorrow.